Hello, everyone. Welcome. Tonight, we will discuss terrifying events, true stories that have occurred on this earth. Get comfortable, stay relaxed, and let's dive into it on Midnight Lullabies. Story 1. It began with silence. No alarms. No screams. Just absence. Megan Boss was 37 years old. She wasn't known to vanish. She wasn't known to disappear. She had friends. Family. A home. A life filled with the ordinary patterns of someone trying to hold it all together. But on March 9, 2025, her name entered a police report under one word: missing. Her family knew something wasn't right. She wasn't answering her phone. Her messages stopped. And every hour that passed made the unanswered questions feel heavier. In the beginning, people hoped maybe she just needed space. Maybe she had taken off to reset, to breathe. But no one could find her. Not in Antioch. Not in Waukegan. Not in the places she was known to go. A week went by. Then another. Flyers were printed. Calls were made. Nothing. Until one address began to surface, more than once. 307, Oak Street, Waukegan. A house linked to a man named Jose Luis Mendoza Gonzalez. Megan had been there before. That much was known. But the truth of what happened inside that house would not emerge until police showed up on April 10, nearly a month after Megan disappeared. They didn't find her alive. They didn't find her in a hospital or wandering the streets. They found her body. Inside a storage container. In his yard. Covered. Concealed. Left there. The man inside the house, 52-year-old Mendoza Gonzalez, told investigators he panicked. That she had died unexpectedly. That he didn't know what to do. So, he moved her. Hid her. Waited. And in doing so, he told no one. Number 911 call. No effort to alert her family. Just silence. And now, the questions that remain are harder than ever to answer. Was her death truly an accident? Or was this something more deliberate, something more terrifying? Stay with us. Her name was Megan Boss. She was 37 years old. A daughter. A sister. A mother of two. On March 9, 2025, Megan's family reported her missing to the Antioch Police Department in Illinois. But by that point, she had already been gone for weeks. The last time anyone heard from Megan was February 17, nearly 3 weeks earlier. No calls. No texts. No messages. Just silence. Her family was worried. Megan had her struggles, with housing, with substance use, but she always kept in touch. She always came back. This time felt different. Her relatives began posting flyers, sharing photos on Facebook, contacting news outlets. Police circulated her image across Lake County and into neighboring Wisconsin, hoping for leads. She was last seen in the Waukegan area, a city on Lake Michigan, about 30 miles southeast of Antioch. It's a place she knew, a place she visited often. But no one there had seen her either. And then, on April 10, nearly 2 months after she vanished, police made a horrifying discovery. A tip led officers to a modest home in the 2000 block of North Buttrick Street in Waukegan. In the backyard, hidden inside a storage container, they found Megan Boss's body. The property belonged to a man named Jose Luis Mendoza Gonzalez, age 52. When confronted, Mendoza didn't deny knowing Megan. In fact, he told investigators she had come to his house in February, just 2 days after her last known contact. According to his statement, Megan arrived on February 19 and asked to stay in the basement. Mendoza claimed she appeared to be under the influence of drugs. He said he later found her unresponsive, dead. Instead of calling police or seeking help, he left her body in the basement, for several days. Eventually, he wrapped her in bedding and trash bags, placed her inside a 55-gallon drum, and stored her in a plastic storage container in his backyard. When asked why, he allegedly said, "I was scared. I panicked. I didn't want to get into trouble." An autopsy later revealed no visible signs of trauma. But toxicology results remain pending. Megan's cause of death is still under investigation. What's not in question is this: Jose Mendoza Gonzalez is now facing felony charges, concealment of a homicidal death, abuse of a corpse, and obstructing justice. Megan's family is left searching for answers, and for justice. What really happened inside that house? Why was no one called for help? And how could a woman simply vanish, only to be found in a container weeks later? This is the story of Megan Boss, a woman who went missing, and was found far too late. Megan Boss was born and raised in Antioch, Illinois, a small town nestled near the Wisconsin border. Friends and family described her as kind, warm, and outgoing. She was a mother of two, striving to provide a stable life for her children. Despite facing personal challenges, Megan remained connected to her loved ones, often reaching out to her family and maintaining her social circles. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Megan was known to frequent Waukegan, a city approximately 30 miles southeast of Antioch. She had acquaintances there, including 52-year-old Jose Luis Mendoza Gonzalez. Reports indicate they had a friendly relationship, and she had visited his residence on multiple occasions. The last confirmed contact with Megan was on February 17, 2025. When her family couldn't reach her in the following days, concern grew. On March 9, they reported her missing to the Antioch Police Department. Authorities launched an investigation, distributing flyers and seeking information from the public. Despite extensive search efforts, including collaboration between Antioch and Waukegan police departments, Megan remained missing for weeks. Her family and community held on to hope, continuing to share her story on social media and through local news outlets. The search came to a tragic end on April 10, 2025, when authorities discovered Megan's body inside a storage container in the yard of Mendoza Gonzalez Waukegan residence. He was subsequently charged with concealment of a death, abuse of a corpse, and obstructing justice. Megan's death left her family and community in mourning, grappling with the loss of a loved one whose life was cut short under distressing circumstances. Jose Luis Mendoza Gonzalez, 52, resided in Waukegan, Illinois, a city situated along the shores of Lake Michigan. He lived in a modest home on North Buttrick Street, a neighborhood characterized by its quiet streets and close-knit community. Mendoza Gonzalez's background reveals no prior criminal history. This absence of a criminal record played a role in the legal proceedings following the discovery of Megan Boss's body on his property. After his arrest, a Lake County judge released him from custody under Level 4 pretrial monitoring, citing his lack of previous offenses. The connection between Mendoza Gonzalez and Megan Boss was established through their frequent interactions. Reports indicate that they had known each other for some time, with Megan visiting his residence on multiple occasions. On February 19, 2025, she arrived at his home and requested to stay in the basement. Mendoza Gonzalez later told authorities that she appeared to be under the influence of drugs. He claimed that after attending to a leaking pipe upstairs, he returned to find Megan unresponsive. Instead of contacting emergency services, he admitted to panicking and concealing her body in the basement for several days. Subsequently, he placed her remains in a 55-gallon drum and stored it in a plastic container in his backyard. He also confessed to destroying her phone. This segment of the story raises critical questions about Mendoza Gonzalez's actions and decisions during this period. The lack of immediate response and the deliberate concealment of Megan's body have become focal points in the ongoing investigation. As days turned into weeks following Megan Boss's disappearance, her family and the Antioch community grew increasingly desperate for answers. The lack of communication from Megan was uncharacteristic, prompting concern and a formal missing person report on March 9, 2025. Investigators began tracing Megan's last known movements, which led them to Waukegan, Illinois. Through interviews and surveillance, authorities identified José Luis Mendoza González as someone Megan had frequent contact with prior to her disappearance. This connection prompted further scrutiny. On April 10, 2025, police approached Mendoza González at his workplace in Waukegan. He agreed to speak with them, expressing a preference not to be arrested at his place of employment. During the interview, conducted with the assistance of a Spanish translator, Mendoza González initially stated that Megan had visited his home on February 19 but left shortly thereafter. However, inconsistencies in his account led investigators to obtain a search warrant for his property. Executing the warrant, authorities searched Mendoza González's residence and yard. In the backyard, they discovered a large plastic container. Inside, they found a 55-gallon drum containing human remains, later confirmed to be those of Megan Boss. The condition of the remains suggested they had been concealed for nearly 2 months. Confronted with the evidence, Mendoza González admitted that Megan had overdosed on an unknown substance at his home. He claimed that after finding her unresponsive, he panicked, fearing legal repercussions. Instead of contacting emergency services, he concealed her body in his basement for several days before transferring it to the storage container in his yard. He also confessed to destroying her phone to eliminate evidence. The Lake County Coroner's Office conducted an autopsy on April 11, 2025. The examination revealed no signs of trauma or struggle. However, the cause of death could not be conclusively determined pending the results of toxicology tests, which are still underway. The absence of visible injuries has left investigators awaiting these results to understand the circumstances surrounding Megan's death fully. Mendoza González was subsequently charged with concealment of a death, abuse of a corpse, and obstructing justice. Despite the severity of the charges, a Lake County judge released him under Level 4 pretrial monitoring, citing his lack of prior criminal history. The decision has sparked discussions within the community about the legal system's handling of such cases. As the investigation continues, authorities are piecing together the events leading to Megan's death, relying on forensic evidence and awaiting toxicology results to provide clarity. The community, meanwhile, grapples with the tragic loss and the unsettling details that have emerged. As the investigation into Megan Boss's death unfolded, the legal proceedings against José Luis Mendoza González began to take shape. On April 14, 2025, just days after the discovery of Megan's body, Mendoza González was formally charged. The charges against him were serious: concealment of a death, abuse of a corpse, and obstructing justice. Each charge pointed to actions that had raised significant legal and moral questions. Concealing the death of a person, particularly when foul play was not immediately evident, is a grave offense in the eyes of the law. Yet, this case was made all the more haunting by the abuse of a corpse, a chilling detail that left many wondering just how far Mendoza González was willing to go to hide his crime. Furthermore, the charge of obstructing justice reflected his efforts to mislead investigators, destroy evidence, and keep the truth of Megan's death concealed for far too long. The evidence against him seemed irrefutable, yet Mendoza González remained adamant in his defense that he was only trying to cover up what he saw as a tragic accident. Mendoza González's first court appearance on April 14, 2025, was a pivotal moment. The defendant, who stood 52 years old at the time, appeared in a Lake County courtroom with his defense attorney, facing the full weight of the charges. His body language was tense, and his eyes often lowered, avoiding the gaze of the public and the family of Megan Boss who were present in the courtroom. His attire was simple, a white shirt and dark slacks, but his demeanor made it clear that he was not prepared for the gravity of the situation. A Spanish translator was present throughout the proceedings, ensuring that Mendoza González could fully understand the legal process, as he was a Spanish speaker and required assistance with the language. It was a crucial moment, as it marked the seriousness of the charges he faced, and his rights were carefully explained to him. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the prosecutor read through the charges, and the defense lawyer stood to make a brief statement on his client's behalf. Despite the chilling nature of the charges, Mendoza González was granted release, though with very strict conditions. The court imposed Level 4 pretrial monitoring, which meant that he would be closely monitored by authorities while awaiting his trial. This form of release, which allows a defendant to remain out of jail while under constant surveillance, raised many eyebrows within the community, especially given the severity of the case. Was this a sign that the legal system was showing leniency, or was it simply procedural? And why was someone accused of such a heinous act allowed to remain free? In addition to pre-trial monitoring, Mendoza Gonzalez was also required to stay within Lake County, Illinois, and was ordered to refrain from contacting Megan's family or any potential witnesses to the case. His legal team argued that he was not a flight risk and that he was simply an individual who had made a tragic decision in a moment of panic. Yet, many were left wondering if the system had failed to recognize the potential for more disturbing truths to surface as the trial progressed. As the legal battle unfolded, tensions continued to rise within the community of Antioch and the surrounding areas. Megan Boss's family, heartbroken by their loss, found themselves faced with the agonizing wait for justice, uncertain of the legal system's next steps and whether they would see Mendoza Gonzalez held accountable for his actions. The court hearings also prompted questions about the broader implications of the case. How many people are affected when someone goes to such lengths to cover up a death? And what happens when the truth is hidden from the world for so long? For now, all eyes remain on the courtroom, as investigators and prosecutors prepare for what may be an intense and emotional trial. As we wait for further developments in this haunting case, the tragic death of Megan Boss still hangs heavily in the air. Will justice prevail? Will the full truth come to light in the courtroom? Only time will tell as the legal proceedings continue. As news of Megan Boss's tragic discovery and the subsequent arrest of Jose Luis Mendoza Gonzalez spread, the community of Antioch, Illinois, was thrown into a state of shock and disbelief. Megan, a beloved member of the local community, was now the center of a heartbreaking and chilling investigation. Her family, friends, and neighbors struggled to make sense of the unthinkable events that had unfolded in their quiet, suburban neighborhood. In the days that followed, the community began to come together in ways that no one had anticipated. A collective sense of grief swept through Antioch as people gathered to honor Megan's memory. The outpouring of support was overwhelming, with residents organizing vigils and memorial services, each one an emotional reminder of the life lost too soon. These public gatherings weren't just an opportunity to mourn, they were a declaration of the unity that had formed in the wake of tragedy. Megan's family, particularly her parents, became central figures in the community's healing process. They stood at the forefront of each vigil, addressing crowds with tear-filled eyes, sharing stories of their daughter's vibrant life and the joy she brought to everyone she met. At the same time, they made it clear that they were not only mourning but were also committed to seeing justice served for Megan. Every step taken by the community, from the heartfelt speeches to the silent walks through the streets, was a testament to the love that surrounded Megan during her life and the undying fight for justice in her death. Public statements by friends and neighbors painted a picture of Megan as someone full of life and optimism, someone who had not just been a friend but a sister to so many. Local businesses in Antioch also joined in the support, posting tribute messages on social media and donating to a fund set up in Megan's name. These actions were a clear display of how deeply her loss had impacted the tight-knit community, and how eager they were to stand up for her in the face of such a senseless tragedy. But amidst the sorrow and shared grief, there was also a rising sense of anger. How could something so unimaginable happen to someone so beloved? Why had the authorities not been able to prevent this? These questions, while they couldn't yet be answered, were at the forefront of everyone's minds. Each vigil, each public gathering, was an opportunity to not only remember Megan but to demand answers, and to make sure the person responsible for taking her life would be held accountable. As the story continued to unfold, the media took a central role in spreading the details of Megan's case far beyond the borders of Antioch. Local news outlets, first and foremost, provided extensive coverage, reporting every development in real time. The names of Megan Boss and Jose Luis Mendoza Gonzalez were now etched in the headlines of newspapers across the region. But as more information became available, the case quickly escalated from local tragedy to national news. National news stations picked up the story, intrigued by the chilling nature of the crime and the unresolved questions surrounding it. The investigation was now the subject of intense media scrutiny. Each new revelation, whether from authorities or anonymous sources, was reported with mounting anticipation. There was an intense focus on the search of Mendoza Gonzalez's property, and every time new details came to light, the media amplified them to an eager and captivated public. But the media coverage wasn't just limited to news outlets, it spread to social media platforms, where the case quickly became a trending topic. Online communities began to discuss every aspect of the case, from the emotional impact on Megan's family to the chilling implications of the charges against Mendoza Gonzalez. The story was shared, tweeted, and posted, with people across the country weighing in, expressing their outrage, sympathy, and disbelief. What stood out, however, was how Megan's story resonated with people on a deeply personal level. Her death was no longer just the story of a missing woman, it became a symbol of the vulnerability and fragility of life. Megan's case brought the horror of violence and its impact on communities into sharp focus, sparking nationwide conversations about justice, loss, and the responsibility we all share in ensuring the safety of those we care about. As the case progresses, it is clear that the public's attention is not waning. The desire for justice in Megan's name continues to fuel protests and petitions, and social media remains a powerful tool for organizing support for her family. The story is not just one of loss, but of resilience, a testament to the way communities can come together, grieve together, and demand change when faced with unspeakable horror. In the face of tragedy, the community of Antioch, Illinois, has shown what it means to stand together, not only to mourn the loss of one of their own, but to ensure that justice is served, and that the memory of Megan Boss will never be forgotten. As the investigation into Megan Boss's tragic death continues to unfold, there are still many unanswered questions, and key pieces of the puzzle remain locked away. One of the most crucial aspects of the investigation lies in the pending toxicology results, tests that could provide significant insights into how Megan died and whether she was subjected to foul play before her body was concealed. These results are expected to shed light on a variety of critical details that could change the direction of the investigation. Toxicology reports, though often slow in coming, are vital in cases like this. They can reveal whether the victim had ingested substances, whether intentional or not, that may have led to their death. In Megan's case, authorities have made it clear that there were no visible signs of trauma to her body, which raises more questions than answers. How did she die? Was it an accident, a drug overdose, or something more sinister? The pending toxicology results will. Though toxicology is often a crucial step, the investigation doesn't stop there. Authorities are also conducting a thorough review of all available evidence, from video surveillance footage to witness testimony, in an attempt to piece together what happened in the days leading up to Megan's disappearance. With little to go on, investigators are also scouring her known social circles, seeking to identify any clues about the last moments of her life. In particular, investigators have turned their attention to Megan's interactions in the days before her disappearance. It's known that she had been in contact with a number of people, but details about these conversations remain unclear. Who was she with on the night she vanished? Were there any disagreements or tensions that could have escalated into violence? These questions, too, are central to piecing together the mystery of her last hours. One of the primary focuses for investigators is the timeline. Authorities are retracing Megan's movements from the last time she was seen on March 9, 2025, when she was reportedly at a local establishment. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses may offer critical clues about what happened in those final hours. Was she followed? Did she encounter someone she knew, or was this a random act of violence? Each new lead could potentially offer a breakthrough in the case. At this stage, investigators are also widening their search for additional evidence that could link Jose Luis Mendoza Gonzalez to the crime. His connection to Megan is crucial, but beyond the discovery of her body on his property, there are still no clear answers about how or why she ended up in the storage container. Investigators have yet to reveal the full extent of the evidence found at his property, but it's known that they are combing through any potential forensic evidence that could provide a clearer picture. In addition to the property search, authorities are digging into Mendoza Gonzalez's personal history. What led him to be connected to Megan Boss? Did they have a personal relationship, or was their connection purely circumstantial? The investigation into his past could uncover patterns that might explain his actions, as well as his potential motive. But with the nature of this crime still largely mysterious, there are concerns about what might come next. The investigation is moving forward, but with no clear answers, the search for justice becomes even more urgent. The family of Megan Boss, the community, and the public are left waiting, hoping for a breakthrough, but knowing that some pieces of this tragic puzzle may take time to fall into place. As the toxicology results are expected to arrive in the coming weeks, investigators will undoubtedly continue their meticulous search for evidence, while also keeping a watchful eye on any new developments that could lead them to answers. With each new piece of information, the full picture of Megan Boss's life and death will begin to take shape. And perhaps, just perhaps, the true story of what happened that fateful March evening will soon be revealed. As we reach the end of our investigation into the case of Megan Boss, it's clear that there are still many unanswered questions. Megan, a beloved woman with a promising future, was taken far too soon. Her tragic end is a stark reminder that behind every story, there are countless unseen moments, and sometimes, even the most familiar faces can hide secrets that lead to devastating consequences. The discovery of her body, concealed in a storage container on the property of José Luis Mendoza Gonzalez, has left the community in shock. It's a chilling detail that raises even more questions. How did it happen? What was the connection between Megan and Mendoza Gonzalez? And most importantly, what truly led to her death? While toxicology results remain pending, and the investigation continues, one thing remains clear: the work of law enforcement is essential in bringing closure to this case. The courage of those who tirelessly seek the truth, often in the face of uncertainty and tragedy, must be recognized. Their efforts, alongside the support of the community, are key to solving cases like this. But justice cannot be achieved without the vigilance and cooperation of all of us. The case of Megan Boss reminds us of the importance of community vigilance, of looking out for one another, especially when something doesn't seem right. It reminds us that sometimes the smallest of clues can lead to monumental breakthroughs. Whether you're a friend, a neighbor, or even a stranger, your voice can be the one that makes a difference. We ask you to stay involved in this case. If you have any information, no matter how small, that might assist investigators, don't hesitate to come forward. Your involvement could be the key to bringing justice for Megan. And as we await further developments, we'll continue to follow this case, updating you on any new findings. We want to hear from you. What do you think happened in this case? What do you believe needs to happen next? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more updates on this case and others like it. As we continue to seek justice for those whose stories deserve to be told, your voice matters. Story 2. It was supposed to be just another day in Mansfield, Texas. A suburban home, 6 teenagers, and a plan, rushed, reckless, and soon to be irreversible. At the center of it all was a boy who had just turned 17. Tamor Trayvon McIntyre. The world would soon know him by a different name. TK. That summer, he wasn't known for music yet. Not for his voice. Not for the viral video that would later shake the internet. He was just another face in a group that had broken into a house, expecting to steal money, drugs, maybe some jewelry. But they weren't alone. Inside that home was Ethan Walker, a 21-year-old college student. He was shot and killed. TK was arrested. Charged with capital murder. But what came next would blur the line between reality and performance, between crime and celebrity. While awaiting trial under house arrest, TK cut off his ankle monitor and fled. A manhunt began. But so did something else. In the middle of his flight from the law, TK recorded a song, The Race, a track that would take the internet by storm. I ain't beat the case, B********H I did the race, he rapped. The music video was raw, unfiltered. He pointed at wanted posters of himself. He bragged about escaping the system. The world watched. Millions clicked. But even as the track climbed charts and lit up social media, he kept running. He was spotted in San Antonio, then in New Jersey. While on the run, authorities say he committed more crimes. One involved a 23-year-old named Mark Anthony Saldivar, who was shot dead in a Chick-fil-A parking lot. 2 murders. Multiple aggravated robberies. A fugitive turned rapper. A viral hit built on real bloodshed. And now, nearly 8 years later, TK is no longer a teenager. He's 24. And he will never walk free again. This is the story of how fame and violence collided in one of the most chilling true crime cases of a generation. And why the courtroom didn't see a star. They saw a killer. April 23, 2017. San Antonio, Texas. Mark Anthony Saldivar, a 23-year-old photographer, received a call for a photo shoot. The client, Tamor McIntyre, known in the music scene as TK, Saldivar agreed, unaware that this assignment would be his last. They met at a Chick-fil-A parking lot. Saldivar entered a black SUV, expecting a routine session. Instead, he was confronted with demands for his camera equipment. Realizing the danger, Saldivar fled the vehicle, shouting for help. In a desperate attempt to escape, he jumped onto the hood of the SUV, trying to prevent it from leaving. McIntyre exited the vehicle and shot Saldivar once, resulting in his death. This wasn't McIntyre's first encounter with the law. In 2016, he was involved in a home invasion in Mansfield, Texas, that led to the death of Ethan Walker. Charged with capital murder, McIntyre was placed under house arrest. However, he removed his ankle monitor and fled, becoming a fugitive. While on the run, McIntyre recorded "The Race," a song detailing his escape from law enforcement. The track went viral, amassing millions of views and bringing him notoriety. The juxtaposition of a fugitive gaining fame while evading capture raised questions about the influence of media and music on public perception. Eventually, McIntyre was apprehended in New Jersey. He was convicted for his role in the 2016 home invasion and sentenced to 55 years in prison. Now, with the conviction for Saldivar's murder, McIntyre faces an additional sentence ranging from 5 to 99 years. This case serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of violence and the complex interplay between crime, fame, and media in modern society. March 27, 2017. Tamor McIntyre, known as TK, removes his court-mandated ankle monitor and flees house arrest in Texas. His escape marks the beginning of a nationwide manhunt. While on the run, McIntyre travels to San Antonio, where he becomes involved in the fatal shooting of 23-year-old photographer Mark Anthony Saldivar during an attempted robbery. This incident adds to his legal troubles, which already include charges from a 2016 home invasion that resulted in the death of Ethan Walker. In May 2017, McIntyre records "The Race," a song detailing his flight from law enforcement. The track, released on June 16, 2017, quickly gains popularity, amassing millions of views on YouTube. The music video, featuring McIntyre referencing his fugitive status, is released on June 30, 2017. Coincidentally, on the same day, U.S. Marshals apprehend him in Elizabeth, New Jersey. "The Race" peaks at number 44 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 and is certified platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America. However, the song's success is overshadowed by McIntyre's legal battles. In July 2019, McIntyre is convicted of murder for his role in the 2016 home invasion and sentenced to 55 years in prison. He also receives additional sentences for aggravated robbery charges. In April 2025, McIntyre is convicted of murder for the 2017 shooting of Saldivar. He faces an additional sentence ranging from 5 to 99 years. This case highlights the complex interplay between crime, fame, and media in modern society. April 14, 2025. Behar County Courthouse, San Antonio, Texas. Tamor McIntyre, known as Tay-K, stands before the jury, awaiting the verdict for the 2017 murder of photographer Mark Anthony Saldivar. The courtroom is tense, the air thick with anticipation. The jury finds McIntyre guilty of murder. He is acquitted of capital murder, which would have mandated a life sentence without parole. Nonetheless, he now faces an additional sentence ranging from 5 to 99 years in prison. This conviction adds to McIntyre's existing 55-year sentence for his role in a 2016 home invasion that resulted in the death of Ethan Walker. During the trial, prosecutors detailed how McIntyre, while on the run after cutting off his ankle monitor, attempted to rob Saldivar of his camera equipment in a Chick-fil-A parking lot. When Saldivar tried to escape, McIntyre shot him, resulting in his death. The defense argued that the investigation relied heavily on biased witness statements. However, the jury was convinced of McIntyre's guilt. As the verdict is read, the courtroom remains silent. The weight of the decision is palpable. McIntyre shows little emotion, his fate now sealed by the justice system. This case serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of violence and the complex interplay between crime, fame, and media in modern society. April 15, 2025. Bexar County Courthouse, San Antonio, Texas. Tamor McIntyre, known as Tay-K, stands before the court as the sentencing phase concludes. The jury has found him guilty of murder in the 2017 shooting of photographer Mark Anthony Saldivar. While acquitted of capital murder, which would have mandated a life sentence without parole, McIntyre now faces an additional sentence ranging from 5 to 99 years in prison. This adds to his existing 55-year sentence for his involvement in a 2016 home invasion that resulted in the death of Ethan Walker. The courtroom remains silent as the weight of the verdict settles. McIntyre shows little emotion, his fate further sealed by the justice system. This case serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of violence and the complex interplay between crime, fame, and media in modern society. As the courtroom empties and the echoes of the verdict fade, one can't help but ponder, what could have been different if McIntyre had chosen another path? A promising music career, a life free from incarceration, and the lives of two young men, Ethan Walker and Mark Anthony Saldivar, might have followed different trajectories. Instead, we are left with a haunting narrative of talent overshadowed by tragedy, and a community grappling with the aftermath of choices made and lives lost. In the end, was this the story of a young man who made a terrible choice, or was it the story of a system that never gave him a chance to begin with? Do you believe fame played a role in K-47's downfall? Or did the spotlight only reveal what was already inevitable? What could have prevented this? Was it better guidance? A different environment? Or was it already too late by the time the first lyrics to The Race were recorded? Tell us what you think. Because in stories like these, sometimes the truth isn't in the headlines, it's in the questions we're still asking. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters more than you know. Story 3. What happens when the image of a pop icon, the boy next door, the platinum-selling artist, the face millions grew up idolizing, begins to shatter? Nick Carter was once the golden child of American pop music. As the youngest member of the Backstreet Boys, he stood at the front of sold-out arenas, smiling for cameras, signing autographs, living a life that looked like a dream from the outside. But outside isn't where the questions lie. In courtrooms, behind closed doors, and in sworn affidavits, a different picture has emerged. One that's disturbing. One that is graphic. And one that many fans are struggling to reconcile with the person they thought they knew. In December of 2022, Shannon Shea Ruth, then 39 years old, filed a lawsuit claiming that when she was just 17, she was invited onto a tour bus after a Backstreet Boys concert in Tacoma, Washington. She says she was offered alcohol despite being underage. That she was assaulted in a small bathroom at the back of the bus. That she was infected with HPV. And that for over 2 decades, she lived with that memory in silence. Nick Carter, through his legal team, denied all of it. He filed a counter-lawsuit, accusing Ruth of fabricating the story and conspiring with others to extort him. But then, another woman came forward. Melissa Schumann, once a rising pop star herself in the girl group Dream, said she had kept her secret for over 15 years. She says that in 2003, when she was 18, Carter raped her in his apartment after convincing her not to tell anyone. She said she told a manager, a publicist. But nothing happened. Her story didn't matter. Not back then. More lawsuits followed. More names. More dates. More years of silence now broken. And now, another voice, Laura Penley, whose claims stretch back to 2004. She says she was 19 when Carter sexually assaulted her. That he knowingly infected her with multiple sexually transmitted infections. That those infections progressed into cervical cancer. And that, for over a decade, she carried the physical and emotional aftermath. 3 lawsuits. 3 women who never knew each other. 3 stories that follow chilling patterns. This isn't tabloid gossip. These are sworn statements. Filed in U.S. courts. Supported by medical records. Backed by public testimony. Nick Carter says he's innocent. He says he's being targeted. That the truth is on his side. But this story isn't just about what he says, or even what his accusers say. It's about power. Silence. And what happens when that silence finally breaks? Stay with us. Because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew about the face on those glossy CD covers, and the world that protected him. Nick Carter's journey to fame began at the tender age of 12 when he became the youngest member of the Backstreet Boys. With his boyish charm and distinctive voice, he quickly became a teen heartthrob, contributing to the group's meteoric rise in the late 1990s. The Backstreet Boys achieved global success, selling millions of albums and captivating audiences worldwide. Carter's solo endeavors further solidified his status in the entertainment industry. However, in recent years, Carter's image has been marred by serious allegations. Multiple women have come forward with accusations of sexual assault, leading to a series of lawsuits that have cast a shadow over his career. In December 2022, Shannon Ruth filed a lawsuit alleging that Carter raped her in 2001 when she was 17 years old. Ruth claims that Carter provided her with alcohol and assaulted her on his tour bus after a concert. Carter has denied these allegations and countersued Ruth for defamation. In April 2023, Melissa Schumann, a former member of the girl group Dream, filed a lawsuit accusing Carter of raping her in 2003 when she was 18. Schumann alleges that Carter assaulted her at his apartment after they worked together on a film project. Carter has denied the allegations and filed a countersuit against Schumann, seeking $2.5 million in damages for defamation. Most recently, in April 2025, Laura Penley filed a lawsuit claiming that Carter sexually assaulted her between 2004 and 2005 when she was around 19 years old. Penley alleges that Carter engaged in non-consensual sexual acts and knowingly transmitted sexually transmitted infections to her, leading to her developing stage 2 cervical cancer. Carter has denied these allegations, asserting he never met Penley and framing the lawsuit as part of a campaign to damage his reputation. These allegations have not only led to legal battles but have also impacted Carter's career. In December 2022, ABC canceled the Backstreet Boys holiday special following the emergence of these claims. As the legal proceedings unfold, the public grapples with reconciling the image of a beloved pop icon with the serious accusations leveled against him. This documentary delves into the details of these cases, examining the evidence, the responses, and the broader implications for accountability in the entertainment industry. In the early 2000s, Nick Carter was a household name, celebrated for his role in the Backstreet Boys. However, decades later, serious allegations have emerged, challenging the public's perception of the pop icon. In 2017, Melissa Schumann, a former member of the girl group Dream, publicly accused Nick Carter of raping her in 2003 when she was 18 years old. Schumann detailed the alleged assault in a blog post, stating that Carter forced her to engage in sexual acts against her will at his Santa Monica apartment. She claimed that despite expressing her refusal, Carter persisted, leading to non-consensual intercourse. At the time, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office declined to prosecute Carter due to the statute of limitations having expired. In April 2023, Schumann filed a lawsuit against Carter, alleging sexual assault and battery. The lawsuit claims that Carter used his celebrity status to gain access to, groom, and exploit her. Carter has consistently denied Schumann's allegations, stating that their encounter was consensual. He filed a countersuit against Schumann for defamation, seeking $2.5 million in damages. In December 2022, Shannon Ruth, who lives with autism and cerebral palsy, filed a lawsuit accusing Nick Carter of raping her in 2001 when she was 17 years old. Ruth alleges that Carter invited her onto his tour bus after a concert in Tacoma, Washington, provided her with alcohol, and assaulted her in a bathroom. She claims that Carter called her derogatory names and left her with bruises. Ruth also alleges that Carter infected her with HPV and threatened her to keep silent. Carter has denied Ruth's allegations and filed a countersuit, accusing her of defamation and claiming that she and others conspired to ruin his reputation. These allegations have significantly impacted Carter's career, leading to the cancellation of the Backstreet Boys holiday special by ABC. As these legal battles unfold, the public grapples with reconciling the image of a beloved pop star with the serious accusations leveled against him. In April 2025, a new lawsuit emerged against Nick Carter, filed by Laura Penley, who alleges that Carter sexually assaulted her between 2004 and 2005 when she was around 19 years old. According to the lawsuit, Penley claims that after initially consensual encounters, Carter engaged in a series of non-consensual sexual acts, disregarding her requests for protection. She asserts that these actions led to her contracting several sexually transmitted infections, including HPV. Penley further alleges that the infections resulted in her developing stage 2 cervical cancer in 2005, causing significant physical, emotional, and psychological harm. She is seeking damages exceeding $15,000 and has requested a jury trial. Carter has denied all accusations, asserting that he never met Penley and framing the lawsuit as part of a campaign to damage his reputation. Penley is the fourth woman to accuse Carter of sexual assault, following previous allegations by Melissa Schumann, Shannon Ruth, and a woman identified as AR. Legal proceedings for those cases are scheduled for 2026. Penley's attorneys have described the suit as a step toward accountability in the entertainment industry's history of sexual exploitation. As these legal battles unfold, the public grapples with reconciling the image of a beloved pop star with the serious accusations leveled against him. As the allegations against Nick Carter gained public attention, the legal landscape became increasingly complex. In response to the accusations, Carter initiated defamation countersuits against Melissa Schumann and Shannon Ruth, asserting that their claims were part of a coordinated effort to tarnish his reputation. He alleged that Schumann and her father orchestrated a conspiracy, enlisting Ruth and even involving his late brother, Aaron Carter, to defame and extort him. Carter's legal team contended that these actions were timed to coincide with his professional milestones, aiming to inflict maximum damage on his career. In a significant development, the Nevada Supreme Court denied Ruth's anti-SLAPP motion, allowing Carter's counterclaim to proceed. The court found that Ruth failed to specifically identify the statements forming the basis of her motion, thereby permitting the defamation case to move forward. However, Carter's legal maneuvers faced setbacks as well. A Nevada judge ruled against his defamation countersuit involving a woman identified as Ashley, who alleged that Carter assaulted her in 2003 when she was 15. The judge cited Carter's own admissions regarding their sexual encounter, emphasizing that the truth serves as an absolute defense in defamation cases. The impact of these legal battles extended beyond the courtroom. In the wake of the allegations, ABC canceled the Backstreet Boys holiday special, reflecting the broader repercussions on Carter's career and public image. As the legal proceedings continue, the public remains divided, grappling with the complexities of the case and its implications for all parties involved. As the legal battles continue, the future of Nick Carter's career and legacy hangs in the balance. The gravity of these lawsuits is not just felt in the courtroom, it's reverberating through the entertainment industry, affecting Carter's public image, his personal life, and his professional future. The most significant legal proceedings are still to come. For the victims who have accused Carter of sexual assault, the road to justice is far from over. The trials for several of these high-profile cases, including the accusations from Melissa Schumann, Shannon Ruth, and Laura Penley, are set to unfold in 2026. These dates are a crucial turning point not only for the accusers seeking justice but for Carter himself, who now faces his most challenging battle yet, defending his innocence in a courtroom. Carter's legal team has consistently maintained his innocence. They argue that the lawsuits filed against him are part of a smear campaign and have dismissed the claims as baseless. They have pointed to discrepancies in the accuser's stories and have made efforts to delay the proceedings, citing the complexities of the cases. For Carter, the trials are not just a test of his legal defenses but of his personal resilience. However, the delay in the trials, particularly the ones scheduled for 2026, only adds to the suspense and uncertainty surrounding the case. With time on his side, Carter's legal team has the opportunity to meticulously prepare, but it also gives his accusers the chance to strengthen their case with more evidence, potentially making the stakes even higher. The prolonged nature of these legal proceedings has placed an immense amount of pressure on everyone involved, especially the women who are accusing Carter. For victims like Schumann and Ruth, the waiting period is a constant reminder of their trauma, as they continue to relive painful memories in the public eye. On the other hand, Carter's legal team is working tirelessly to debunk the allegations, as the case continues to evolve in the court of public opinion. As we look ahead to the eventual resolution of these legal battles, the potential outcomes remain highly uncertain. What could the future hold for Carter? Let's break it down. If the courts ultimately rule in favor of the accusers, the implications for Carter could be catastrophic, not just legally but professionally. A conviction could lead to a financial penalty, public shame, and irreparable damage to his career. His involvement with the Backstreet Boys may come to an end, as the group's reputation could be tarnished by association. Endorsements, which had once come easily for Carter, could dry up, and his status as a pop culture icon could be reduced to nothing more than a cautionary tale. Furthermore, such a ruling would likely spark a larger conversation about accountability in the entertainment industry, with greater scrutiny placed on the treatment of women and the systemic issues that have allowed abuse to go unchecked for so long. It could also embolden other victims to come forward, creating a ripple effect throughout the industry. On the other hand, if Carter is exonerated, the legal victory could provide him with a measure of personal vindication. However, the damage done to his reputation in the public sphere might be irreversible. Even with a favorable outcome in court, many fans and critics may struggle to view him in the same light. The emotional toll of the accusations may have already taken its toll, leaving Carter to rebuild his career from the ground up. The public's perception of him may forever be clouded by these allegations, making it difficult for him to regain his former status as a beloved pop star. There's also the possibility of a settlement or the dismissal of some of the lawsuits, which could result in a less dramatic outcome for Carter. If some of the claims are dropped or resolved outside of court, Carter may avoid a prolonged trial. However, such an outcome wouldn't necessarily erase the public scrutiny. Even if legal proceedings are concluded without a conviction, the accusations would likely continue to cast a shadow over his career. The public's fascination with the case could linger, leaving Carter in a precarious position in terms of future opportunities. Regardless of the outcome of the trials, the damage to Carter's career is undeniable. For years, he was part of one of the most successful boy bands in history, the Backstreet Boys, and became a household name. But now, even if the legal battles go in his favor, Carter may have to redefine himself in a world that's no longer willing to overlook past mistakes. The Backstreet Boys, once a global phenomenon, have already experienced cancellations due to the allegations, and it's unclear whether the group will be able to return to its previous glory. Nick Carter's career trajectory could be dramatically altered. What does the future hold for a once iconic pop star caught in the web of multiple lawsuits? How does someone rebuild their reputation in an industry that's quick to forget but slow to forgive? One of the greatest questions that remains is about Carter's legacy. He had long been seen as a symbol of youthful success and charisma. But now, that image is in flux, and his future legacy hinges on the outcome of these trials. A legal victory could offer a sense of redemption, but the true test lies in whether the public is willing to accept him back. Can Nick Carter rise from the ashes, or will he be forever defined by the dark cloud of these allegations? Carter's legal battles also highlight the larger issue of accountability in the entertainment industry. His case has sparked a much-needed conversation about the power dynamics between celebrities and their fans, as well as the consequences of silence and complicity within the industry. The impact of this case could lead to significant changes in how accusations are handled in the public eye and how celebrities are held accountable for their actions. The entertainment industry may face heightened scrutiny and new protocols for how allegations of this nature are addressed in the future, leading to lasting changes in both legal and cultural practices. The trials ahead will undoubtedly shape the future of Nick Carter, both in the courtroom and in the eyes of the public. As the story unfolds, the legal ramifications, the emotional toll on all parties involved, and the long-term effects on his career remain uncertain. One thing is clear: the outcome of these cases will not only affect Nick Carter's legacy but will also leave a lasting impact on the entertainment industry as a whole. Stay tuned, as we continue to follow the twists and turns in this shocking and ongoing saga. As the dust begins to settle around the complex and unsettling legal battles involving Nick Carter, one thing remains undeniably clear: this case represents more than just the fate of a single pop star. It reflects the broader issues embedded within the entertainment industry, the celebrity culture, and society's response to allegations of sexual assault. Let's take a moment to reflect on the larger implications of these accusations and what they mean for the industry that Carter once ruled, as well as for the fans who once adored him. The Nick Carter scandal is only the latest chapter in a series of high-profile cases that have rocked the entertainment world in recent years. From the #MeToo movement to the increasing visibility of victims of sexual assault, these allegations are shining a spotlight on the darker side of fame, the abuse of power, the silencing of victims, and the culture of secrecy that has long protected stars and kept the public in the dark. In Carter's case, his alleged actions are not isolated. They exist within a broader narrative of a system that too often turns a blind eye to accusations made against powerful figures in the entertainment industry. Celebrities have long been placed on pedestals, celebrated for their talent and charm, while the people around them, especially women, are frequently overlooked or dismissed when they come forward with allegations of abuse. The Nick Carter case, along with similar scandals involving other high-profile figures, forces us to confront this troubling reality. As the entertainment industry becomes more scrutinized, we're seeing a shift in the way these cases are approached. No longer can powerful figures rely on their celebrity status to shield them from accountability. While the legal proceedings surrounding Nick Carter are still ongoing, they mark a turning point in how celebrities and their actions are perceived by the public and the media. The increasing courage of women speaking out, like those accusing Carter, serves as a reminder that the battle for justice is far from over. These cases serve not just as a reflection of individual wrongdoings, but as a mirror to an entire culture that has, for too long, allowed abuse to flourish unchecked. As the entertainment industry slowly begins to reckon with its past, it's unclear what changes will emerge. Will we see stricter protocols? Will the industry's power dynamics shift? Only time will tell, but what's certain is that this scandal is part of a much larger reckoning that cannot be ignored. Nick Carter's fall from grace also exposes the flaws within celebrity culture itself, the way society elevates individuals to godlike status, only to tear them down when they fall. For years, Carter was a symbol of youthful success, a heartthrob who made millions of fans swoon with his voice, his looks, and his larger-than-life persona. But now, as he faces these severe allegations, we're forced to reconsider the true cost of fame. Celebrity culture is built on an image, an illusion of perfection, and when that image cracks, it creates a spectacle, one that is often more damaging to everyone involved than anyone could have anticipated. What happens when a star's image collapses? For Carter, it's not just a matter of facing allegations, he is also confronting the inevitable erosion of the idealized version of himself that fans and the media once embraced. The scrutiny, the backlash, and the negative press can be overwhelming. It raises questions about whether we, as a society, are too quick to place celebrities on pedestals in the first place, only to watch them fall from grace when the cracks in their persona appear. In Carter's case, the very same industry that propelled him to stardom now seems ready to disown him. The cancellation of his performances, the loss of endorsements, and the public condemnation signal the precarious nature of celebrity status. But more importantly, they highlight the delicate balance between fame and accountability. The cost of being in the public eye is steep, but the cost of losing that image, of being labeled a pariah, is often even steeper. As we reflect on the details of this case, it's important to acknowledge that this is still an ongoing saga. The legal proceedings are far from over, and the final verdict has yet to be determined. For those of us on the outside, it's crucial to recognize that these are not just headlines, but real people with real lives being affected. The victims who have come forward, Melissa Schumann, Shannon Ruth, Laura Penley, have shown incredible courage, and their stories deserve to be heard and respected, regardless of the outcome in the courtroom. This case is not just about Nick Carter, it's about the larger issue of accountability in the entertainment industry, the treatment of women, and the power dynamics that have allowed abuse to go unchecked for too long. As the legal battles unfold, it's essential that we stay informed, think critically, and continue to hold those in power accountable for their actions. We encourage you, the viewer, to keep following the developments of this case. Watch as the legal proceedings unfold, read up on the details, and consider the broader implications of what is happening here. This story is far from over, and its resolution could have profound consequences, not only for Carter but for the industry that made him famous. Ultimately, what we take from this story is a call for change. The entertainment industry is not immune to the societal issues we face, and it's time for both the public and the media to demand more transparency, more responsibility, and more accountability. Whether or not Nick Carter is ultimately found guilty, the fact that these conversations are happening, on a public stage, sends a message that things must change. It's time to ask tough questions, hold people accountable, and ensure that everyone, regardless of their fame, faces the consequences of their actions. Whether it's Nick Carter, or anyone else in the spotlight, the time for ignoring these issues is over. This documentary has explored the highs and lows of Nick Carter's journey, from the dizzying heights of stardom to the painful fall from grace. As the story continues to unfold, one thing is certain, this case will leave an indelible mark on the entertainment industry and society as a whole. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want to stay updated on this and other important stories. And as always, continue to question the world around you. As we come to the end of this documentary, we're left with more questions than answers. The case of Nick Carter is just one in a growing number of high-profile legal battles that are redefining the way we think about celebrity, justice, and accountability. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on the allegations that have been brought forward? Do you believe the victims who have come forward with their stories, or do you feel there's more to this than what we've seen so far? It's a complex issue, and we'd love to hear your perspective. As these legal battles continue, there's no telling where they will lead. Will Nick Carter face the consequences of his actions, or will the courts find that there's not enough evidence to hold him accountable? It's an open question, and the answer could have lasting implications, not only for Carter but for the entire entertainment industry. But one thing is certain, this case is far from over. The legal proceedings are scheduled to unfold over the next few years, and as more information comes to light, there will no doubt be more twists and turns along the way. As we all continue to follow this case, it's vital to remember that the pursuit of justice is a marathon, not a sprint. So, what do you think? Do you believe justice will be served in this case? Or do you think there's more to the story than we've seen so far? Do you think celebrities like Nick Carter should face harsher scrutiny when it comes to allegations like these, or should they be given the benefit of the doubt? These are important questions, and we want to hear your thoughts. Join the conversation in the comments below. Share your opinions, your questions, and your insights with us and with others who are watching. It's crucial that we continue to have these conversations, to challenge assumptions, and to ask the tough questions. If you want to stay informed as this story develops and get the latest updates on Nick Carter's legal battles, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll continue to bring you in-depth coverage, not just on this case but on other important stories in the world of true crime and celebrity culture. There's so much more to uncover, and we'll be following this story as it unfolds. Don't miss out on the next chapter. Hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. And remember, we're here to provide you with all the details you need to stay informed, and to keep asking the hard questions that matter. Thank you for watching. Stay engaged, stay informed, and as always, don't stop questioning the world around you. Story 4. A rising NFL star. A fatal crash. A police chase. A final, tragic decision. This is the story of Karen Lacey. Just days before he was set to fulfill his NFL dream, 24-year-old Karen Lacey sat alone in a car in Houston, Texas. Outside, police surrounded the vehicle after a short chase. Inside, Karen sat motionless. The engine silent. The world waiting. And then, a single gunshot. And everything changed. He had once been a beacon of hope for his hometown of Thibodaux, Louisiana. A hometown hero who made his way from Friday night lights to Tiger Stadium glory. His name echoed in the stands at LSU. Touchdowns. Celebrations. NFL buzz. He had the size. The speed. The hands. The drive. NFL scouts whispered his name in meeting rooms. But in private, Karen was carrying something no one could see. This wasn't just another football player with potential. This was someone who had been adored by teammates, respected by coaches, and loved by his family. Yet in the end, none of them could stop what happened that night. Back in December 2024, an elderly man named Herman Hall, 78, died after a horrific crash in Lafourche Parish. Police say Karen was driving the vehicle that struck him. He fled the scene. The charges were serious: negligent homicide, felony hit and run. And just 1 week before the case was to go before a grand jury, Karen vanished. On April 12, 2025, Houston police were called to a domestic disturbance. A woman said she was afraid for her life. Officers arrived. Karen was gone. Then a chase. It didn't last long. He pulled into a parking lot. And that's where it ended. When police approached the car, Karen was slumped over. Gone. No warning. No note. Just silence. Except for one thing, his father's voice. Kenny Lacey, broken with grief, released a statement days later. He said, "As parents, we need to ask more questions. We need to listen more. Even when we think our kids are strong, we still need to check in. This isn't a story about football. This is a story about pressure. About isolation. About everything that goes unsaid. And about a young man who looked like he had it all, until it was too late." In the next 45 minutes, we'll uncover the real story of Karen Lacey. What led to his tragic end? What the investigation revealed? What his father's message meant? And what we can all learn from the silence that surrounded him. Karen Lacey was more than just a football player. He was a son, a teammate, a friend, and a young man with dreams that reached far beyond the gridiron. Born on December 27, 2000, in Thibodaux, Louisiana, Karen's passion for football was evident from an early age. At Thibodaux High School, he showcased his talent, earning a spot as a 3-star recruit and eventually committing to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. His collegiate journey began with the Ragin' Cajuns, where he quickly made a name for himself. In his freshman year, he recorded 28 receptions for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. After 2 seasons, he transferred to LSU, aiming to compete at the highest level of college football. At LSU, Koren's performance peaked in the 2024 season, where he led the team with 58 receptions for 866 yards and 9 touchdowns, earning second-team All-SEC honors. Off the field, Koren was known for his infectious smile and unwavering dedication. Teammates and coaches often spoke of his leadership qualities and the positive energy he brought to the locker room. He was preparing for the 2025 NFL Draft, participating in LSU's Pro Day in March, and was considered a promising prospect. However, beneath the surface, Koren was grappling with challenges that few knew about. On April 12, 2025, just days before a scheduled grand jury hearing related to a December 2024 car accident, Koren's life came to a tragic end. Following a domestic dispute and subsequent police chase in Houston, Texas, authorities found him deceased in his vehicle from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. The news sent shockwaves through the football community. Former LSU teammate Malik Neighbors expressed his devastation, stating he was broken over the loss. NFL players like Dak Prescott and Jaden Daniels also shared heartfelt tributes, emphasizing the importance of mental health awareness. Koren's father, Kenny Lacy, broke his silence with a poignant message, urging parents to check on their children's mental well-being, even when they appear strong. He emphasized that open conversations about mental health are crucial, stating, "We need to ask more questions. We need to listen more." This documentary aims to delve into the life and untimely death of Koren Lacy, exploring the events leading up to that fateful day, the impact on those who knew him, and the broader implications for mental health awareness in sports and beyond. Koren Lacy was born on December 27, 2000, in Thibodaux, Louisiana, a tight-knit community where Friday night lights weren't just a tradition, but a way of life. From an early age, Koren exhibited a natural athleticism, excelling in both football and basketball at Thibodaux High School. His prowess on the football field quickly garnered attention, earning him recognition as one of the top wide receiver prospects in the state. According to Max Preps, he was ranked in the top 20 in Louisiana for one stat, top 1 in Division 5A for one stat, and top 1 in 5A District 7 for one stat. In 2019, Koren committed to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, joining the Ragin' Cajuns as a 3-star recruit. Over 2 seasons, he made significant contributions to the team's offense, recording 50 receptions for 668 yards and 10 touchdowns. His performance showcased his ability to be a reliable target and a red zone threat. Seeking greater challenges and exposure, Koren transferred to Louisiana State University, LSU, in 2022. At LSU, he became an integral part of a dynamic receiving corps, playing alongside standout receivers Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. In the 2023 season, Koren recorded 30 receptions for 558 yards and 7 touchdowns. His senior year in 2024 was even more impressive, as he led the team with 58 receptions for 866 yards and 9 touchdowns, tying for the Southeastern Conference lead in touchdown receptions. Throughout his college career, Koren amassed a total of 162 receptions for 2,360 yards and 26 touchdowns over 64 games. His consistent performance and work ethic earned him second-team All-SEC honors in 2024 and an invitation to the 2025 Senior Bowl. Off the field, Koren was known for his leadership and dedication, graduating in December 2024 with a degree in sport administration. Koren Lacy's journey from a small-town athlete to a promising NFL prospect was marked by determination, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. His legacy serves as an inspiration to aspiring athletes in Thibodaux and beyond. December 17, 2024, began like any other day in Lafourche Parish, Louisiana. The sun rose over the quiet town of Chackbay, where residents went about their daily routines. Among them was 78-year-old Herman Hall, a former Marine known for his dedication to community service and his unwavering commitment to his family. That morning, Herman set out on Louisiana Highway 20, unaware that his life would tragically end that day. According to Louisiana State Police, around midday, a vehicle driven by 24-year-old Karen Lacey was traveling at high speed, swerving across the center line in a no-passing zone. Lacey's car collided head-on with Herman Hall's vehicle, resulting in a devastating crash. Herman Hall was pronounced dead at the scene, and 2 other individuals sustained injuries. Shockingly, Lacey fled the scene without rendering aid or calling for emergency services. In the weeks following the accident, investigators pieced together the events leading up to the crash. On January 10, 2025, an arrest warrant was issued for Lacey, charging him with negligent homicide, felony hit-and-run with death, and reckless operation of a vehicle. 2 days later, Lacey turned himself into authorities and was released on a $151,000 bail. The legal proceedings weighed heavily on Lacey, who was preparing for the 2025 NFL Draft. Despite participating in LSU's Pro Day in March, the looming charges cast a shadow over his future prospects. A grand jury hearing was scheduled for April 14, 2025, to determine whether to indict Lacey on the charges stemming from the fatal crash. The community mourned the loss of Herman Hall, remembering him as a devoted family man and a pillar of strength. His death served as a stark reminder of the consequences of reckless driving and the importance of accountability. As the date of the grand jury hearing approached, questions lingered about the impact of the charges on Lacey's mental health and the pressures he faced as a young athlete under intense scrutiny. The tragic events of December 17, 2024, would ultimately become a pivotal chapter in the story of Karen Lacey, a chapter marked by loss, legal turmoil, and the complexities of navigating personal responsibility in the public eye. April 12, 2025. Just 2 days before a scheduled grand jury hearing that would determine his legal fate, Karen Lacey found himself at a critical juncture. That night, around 11:15 p.m., a call was made to the Harris County Sheriff's Office in Texas. A female family member reported a heated argument with Karen, during which he had discharged a firearm into the ground before leaving the residence. Authorities responded promptly, but by the time they arrived, Lacey had already fled the scene. A description of his vehicle was broadcast to local law enforcement agencies. Approximately 30 minutes later, deputies spotted Lacey's vehicle and attempted to initiate a traffic stop. However, Lacey did not comply, leading officers on a pursuit that spanned several miles through the Houston area. The chase concluded along Aldine Westfield Road when Lacey's vehicle crashed. Upon approaching the vehicle, deputies discovered Lacey deceased from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Body camera and dashcam footage confirmed that no shots were fired by law enforcement during or after the pursuit. The news of Lacey's death sent shockwaves through the football community. Former teammates, including New York Giants wide receiver Malik Neighbors, expressed profound grief. Neighbors shared a heartfelt tribute on social media, stating he was broken and devastated by the loss of his close friend. Lacey's father, Kenny, also took to social media to share a poignant message, urging parents to engage in open conversations with their children about mental health. He emphasized the importance of recognizing warning signs and providing support during times of struggle. Karen Lacey's untimely death highlights the immense pressures faced by young athletes and the critical need for mental health awareness and support systems. As the community mourns, his story serves as a somber reminder of the importance of compassion, understanding, and proactive mental health care. In the days following Karen Lacey's tragic death, an outpouring of grief and reflection swept through the football community and beyond. His father, Kenny Lacey, shared a heartfelt message, urging parents to actively monitor and support their children's mental health, emphasizing the often invisible nature of mental struggles. Former LSU teammate and New York Giants wide receiver Malik Neighbors expressed deep sorrow over Lacey's death, sharing a heartfelt tribute on Instagram and recalling their close bond. Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, who has previously spoken about his own struggles with depression, used the tragedy to emphasize mental health awareness and the importance of seeking help. Lacey's former LSU teammate, Washington Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels, also honored him with several social media posts, reflecting on their time together and the impact Lacey had on those around him. Karen Lacey's untimely death has prompted renewed focus on mental health awareness and support for young athletes, highlighting the ongoing challenges they face both on and off the field. In the world of competitive sports, the physical prowess of athletes often takes center stage. Yet, beneath the surface, many young athletes grapple with immense psychological pressures. The relentless pursuit of excellence, fear of failure, and the weight of expectations can lead to mental health challenges such as anxiety, depression, and burnout. A study highlighted that approximately 35% of elite athletes report mental health concerns, with burnout, depression, and anxiety being the most common issues. The stigma surrounding mental health in sports often prevents athletes from seeking the help they need. The culture of toughness and the fear of appearing weak can be significant barriers. This is compounded by the lack of mental health literacy and the need for effective screening practices. Recognizing these challenges, several organizations have stepped up to provide support. Athletes for Hope's Whole Being Athlete program aims to reduce the stigma of mental health in sports through education and advocacy. The NCAA offers a range of mental health educational resources tailored for student athletes. Additionally, the U.S. Center for Mental Health and Sport provides training and resources to create environments that promote mental wellness in sports. The tragic loss of Karen Lacey serves as a poignant reminder of the importance of mental health awareness in athletics. It's imperative that we foster an environment where athletes feel safe to express their struggles and seek help. By prioritizing mental well-being alongside physical training, we can support athletes in achieving not only their performance goals but also a balanced and healthy life. Karen Lacey's story is not just about football. It's not just about a rising star whose life ended too soon. It's a story about the unseen weight that some carry behind every touchdown, behind every smile in a post-game interview, behind every moment of applause. Born in Thibodaux, Louisiana, Karen worked his way from small-town Friday night lights to SEC football glory. He caught passes, made plays, wore his jersey with pride, and made an entire community believe. But while the world saw the athlete, the highlight reels, and the dream in motion, few truly saw the quiet pain. December 2024 marked a turning point, an incident that no one could have foreseen. A fatal crash. A pending legal case. A family conflict. And finally, the harrowing discovery in Houston. At just 24 years old, Karen Lacey's journey came to a heartbreaking end, leaving more questions than answers. The grief was immediate and widespread. Former teammates, coaches, friends, and fans all paused, shaken by the news. But amid the mourning came a deeper conversation, one about the mental health of young athletes. One that was long overdue. From his father Kenny Lacey's emotional plea to the echoes of tribute across social media, one message rang clear: we must do better. We must listen more closely. We must create space for vulnerability. And we must let our athletes know that their worth is never measured by stats or status, but by their humanity. So, what do we take away from this? We take away the urgency of checking in. We take away the responsibility of listening without judgment. We take away the call to build systems that support, not just train, our athletes. To anyone watching this right now, if someone you love seems distant, ask them how they're really doing. Sit with them. Let them talk. Let them not talk. Just be there. And if you're the one struggling, know this: you are not alone. Help is out there. People care. Your story matters. Karen Lacey's story ended too soon, but it doesn't have to be forgotten. Let it be a light, not a shadow. Let it be a reason to do more, to be better, and to love louder. If you or someone you know is experiencing mental distress, please reach out to a mental health professional. In the U.S., you can call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, 24 hours a day. And to Karen, your light still shines. On the field. In your hometown. In the hearts of those who knew you. And now, in the conversations you've sparked. Rest in peace, number 2. Story 5. April 4th, 2025. A call comes in from a Los Angeles hotel. Room 714. Inside, an 85-year-old woman lies unresponsive. No signs of forced entry. No clear cause. The woman is Terry Baralt, sister of Jose Menendez. An aunt to Lyle and Eric Menendez. The same brothers convicted of gunning down their wealthy parents inside their Beverly Hills mansion over 3 decades ago. In the days leading up to that chilling discovery, Baralt had become one of the most vocal advocates for her nephew's release. She had spoken publicly, again and again, about the abuse she says her brother inflicted on his children. Her voice, once silent during the trials, was now loud. And the timing couldn't have been more critical. Just weeks earlier, new evidence was filed in court, evidence that could challenge the very foundation of the Menendez verdict. And then, just like that, she's found unconscious. Her family says it wasn't just health. They say it was trauma. They say she was pushed past the edge, emotionally wrecked after prosecutors displayed graphic, unedited crime scene photos of her brother's corpse in a resentencing hearing. And now, at the very moment her voice was rising, she is silent. Was it a medical emergency? Or was this something more? A coincidence, or a calculated silence? Tonight, we pull apart the facts of one of the most haunting legal battles in modern American history. And ask, what was Terry Baralt about to say? And why, now, did she fall silent? In 1989, Beverly Hills was rocked by a crime that would captivate the nation. Jose and Kitty Menendez, a wealthy and prominent couple, were found brutally murdered in their home. Their sons, Lyle and Eric Menendez, were eventually convicted in 1996 for the killings, each receiving 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The brothers claimed they acted out of fear, alleging years of sexual and emotional abuse at the hands of their father, Jose. These claims were central to their defense but were met with skepticism by prosecutors and the public alike. Fast forward to 2025, and the case has resurfaced in the public eye. New evidence and shifting perspectives on abuse have led to renewed legal battles. Central to this resurgence is Terry Baralt, the 85-year-old sister of Jose Menendez and aunt to Lyle and Eric. Despite battling colon cancer, Baralt has become a vocal advocate for her nephews, recently giving her first public interview in 35 years to express support for their release. However, just days after her interview, Baralt was found unresponsive in a Los Angeles hotel room. Her hospitalization came shortly after a court hearing where graphic images of her brother's body were displayed, a move her lawyer described as disturbing and reckless. The family believes this event contributed to her medical emergency. As the Menendez brothers continue to fight for a new sentencing hearing, the sudden health crisis of their aunt adds another layer of complexity to an already convoluted case. The question remains, will the new developments and family advocacy be enough to alter the course of justice that was set nearly 3 decades ago? The Menendez brothers were born into a world of privilege, but their childhood would be far from typical. Lyle Menendez was born in 1968, and his younger brother Eric followed in 1970. Their father, Jose Menendez, was a powerful figure, an executive at a major Hollywood studio, a self-made man who demanded perfection. Their mother, Kitty Menendez, was a former beauty queen and a socialite. Despite the outward appearance of a perfect family, things behind closed doors were far from ideal. The brothers later revealed, during their trials, that they had endured years of emotional and sexual abuse at the hands of their father, an allegation that would define their defense. Growing up, both brothers exhibited signs of distress. Lyle, the older brother, was known for his arrogance and competitive nature, often living in the shadow of his father's demanding expectations. Eric, on the other hand, was quieter, more reserved, but just as impacted by the trauma they both endured. The Menendez family seemed perfect to the outside world, wealthy, well-dressed, living in the exclusive Beverly Hills neighborhood, but behind their closed doors, a devastating secret was festering. In interviews, Lyle and Eric would describe their father as a man who could turn violent with little provocation, and their mother as passive, too afraid to intervene. Then came August 20, 1989. The Menendez family's luxurious Beverly Hills home would become the scene of an unimaginable crime. Jose and Kitty Menendez were brutally murdered in cold blood. The brothers, later admitting to the crime, initially told investigators that they were out for a night at the movies. But what they didn't know was that the police were already suspicious. According to their confession, the brothers came home that night and retrieved their shotguns. In what they later described as an act of defense against years of torment, they shot their father Jose first, followed by their mother Kitty. The crime was shockingly brutal. Jose was shot multiple times, and Kitty was killed almost immediately after. The brothers had hoped to stage the crime as a home invasion, but the aftermath would tell a different story. In the days that followed, Eric and Lyle's actions would raise suspicions. While police began investigating the crime, the brothers' behavior seemed odd. Instead of showing signs of remorse, they appeared somewhat indifferent to their parents' deaths. They went on shopping sprees, bought luxury cars, and flaunted their wealth in the days following the murders. Investigators soon began to question whether the Menendez brothers were truly the victims of a traumatic home invasion or if they were responsible for the brutal killings. For the police, the question remained: what would drive two young men to murder their parents in such a cold-blooded manner? As the investigation continued, the Menendez brothers' behavior came under intense scrutiny. They initially maintained their innocence, claiming they had no part in their parents' deaths. But when detectives listened to tapes of their therapy sessions, it became clear that the brothers were not as innocent as they seemed. The tapes revealed a shocking truth: the brothers confessed to the killings, albeit in a deeply troubled and fragmented way. Their therapists, Dr. Oziel, would later testify that both brothers had admitted to the murders in therapy, citing years of physical and emotional abuse at the hands of their father. The first trial in 1993 ended in a dramatic deadlock. The jury was unable to reach a unanimous decision, leading to a mistrial. Many believed the defense team's portrayal of the brothers as victims of abuse had swayed some jurors, while others were not convinced by the brothers' explanations. The second trial, however, was not as forgiving. The prosecution seized the opportunity, presenting evidence of the brothers' lavish lifestyles and their behavior in the aftermath of the murders. In contrast, the defense argued that the brothers had acted out of fear after years of abuse and trauma. On April 17, 1996, both brothers were convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. The Menendez case quickly became a media spectacle. The public's response was divided. Some sympathized with the brothers, believing they were victims of their father's cruelty, while others viewed them as spoiled young men who had murdered their parents in cold blood for financial gain. The trial was played out in the media, and the public became obsessed with the brothers' motives, the alleged abuse, and the grisly details of the crime. But in the years following the conviction, the case would evolve once again. The Menendez brothers' fight for a new sentencing hearing continues to this day, as they argue that new evidence has come to light about their traumatic past. Behind every story of tragedy, there are often those who fight to right what they perceive as a wrong. And for Lyle and Eric Menendez, that advocate was their aunt, Terry Baralt. Sister to Jose Menendez, Terry was one of the few family members who stood by the brothers after their conviction. While the world debated their guilt or innocence, Terry Baralt became one of their most vocal and passionate supporters. Terry, who was born into the Menendez family, had seen the darker side of their father Jose, a side she had never fully acknowledged before the murders. In interviews, she would recount a childhood where Jose's controlling and domineering behavior cast a long shadow over the Menendez household. However, her relationship with her brother Jose had been distant, especially in the years leading up to his tragic death. When the murders occurred, the shockwaves rippled through the Menendez family, and Terry, despite her own personal feelings, felt a deep need to understand what had happened. She began her advocacy not long after Lyle and Eric were convicted in 1996, determined to fight for the truth to come to light. Terry Baralt took to the media, using her platform to publicly defend her nephews. She claimed, with conviction, that the brothers had suffered years of abuse at the hands of their father, and that they were the victims of a miscarriage of justice. In an emotional interview, Terry described how she believed the trauma inflicted upon Lyle and Eric had driven them to commit the unimaginable. She argued that they had been scarred by a lifetime of fear and manipulation, and that they deserved to be granted a new trial. But what made Terry's position even more poignant was her personal stake in the case. She had not only lost her brother Jose to violence, but she was also watching her beloved nephews serve life sentences behind bars. She knew that the brothers were now far from the boys she had once known. They were adults, but in her eyes, they were still victims of a broken system that had failed to protect them when they needed it most. Despite the overwhelming public outcry and skepticism regarding the brothers' defense, Terry never wavered in her support. She continued to speak out on their behalf, appearing on various talk shows and in news segments to shed light on the alleged abuse that had been systematically overlooked by the courts. One of her most heartfelt moments came during an interview with CNN when she tearfully revealed the toll the entire ordeal had taken on her health. "Every day, I carry this weight in my heart," she said, "because I know my nephews are suffering and yet no one will listen to the truth." But Terry's advocacy was more than just words, it was action. She tirelessly worked to gather support for the brothers' release, even going so far as to challenge the legal system that had convicted them. Her calls for a re-evaluation of the case were not just emotional, but grounded in the argument that the legal proceedings had failed to take into account the depth of the abuse Lyle and Eric had endured. She argued that the brothers' actions on the night of the murders, while tragic, were an act of desperation rather than premeditation. Terry's campaign for justice didn't stop with media appearances. She appealed to anyone who would listen, meeting with lawyers, activists, and even lawmakers in a bid to secure a new hearing for the Menendez brothers. And she wasn't just fighting for her nephew's freedom, she was fighting for a broader conversation about abuse, power, and the complexities of familial trauma. In her eyes, Lyle and Eric were not monsters, but rather deeply wounded individuals who had been failed by the very people who should have protected them. But as the years wore on, Terry's health began to decline. She had been diagnosed with a chronic illness that left her weak and often confined to her home, and it seemed as though the weight of the Menendez case was beginning to take its toll on her. But still, she pressed on, determined to see her nephews free, to see them receive the justice she believed they deserved. Her devotion to the cause became both her life's mission and her greatest burden. "I want to see them free before I go," Terry said in one of her final interviews, a statement that would resonate deeply with viewers and supporters alike. Her words became more than a plea, they were a promise to her nephews. She was not just advocating for them, she was a mother figure in their fight for justice. But as we would soon discover, her advocacy would take a tragic turn in 2023, when Terry Baralt was found unresponsive in a hotel room under circumstances that have raised as many questions as answers. Was it the stress of a lifelong battle for her nephews? Or was there more to her sudden passing than anyone could have predicted? After decades of legal battles, the story of Lyle and Eric Menendez, the brothers who shocked the world with their brutal act of violence, took an unexpected turn in recent years. Just when it seemed that the final chapter had been written, new evidence began to surface, rekindling the debate over their conviction and the trauma that may have led to their crime. The first breakthrough came in the form of a letter from Eric Menendez, written from prison. In this powerful and candid letter, Eric opened up about the years of torment he and his brother endured at the hands of their father, Jose Menendez. He detailed the horrific abuse that they had been subjected to, painting a chilling portrait of a home where fear, manipulation, and control were the daily norms. Eric's words, written in the confines of a prison cell, shed new light on the psychological trauma that the brothers had suffered, offering a perspective that had long been overlooked during the trial. In addition to Eric's letter, there was another revelation that would shake the case to its core, allegations from Roy Rossello, a former employee of the Menendez family. Rossello came forward with claims that Jose Menendez had sexually abused him, further adding to the mounting evidence of the patriarch's abusive behavior. Rossello's testimony, though controversial, painted a portrait of Jose as a man with a long history of manipulative and predatory actions. These revelations, combined with Eric's letter, provided the foundation for a renewed call for justice. With this new evidence in hand, the Menendez family, including Terry Baralt's surviving relatives, made an impassioned plea for the resentencing of Lyle and Eric. Over 20 family members, many of whom had previously been silent on the case, came forward to support the brothers. In a powerful show of unity, they argued that the brothers had not been given a fair trial, and that the abuse they had suffered should have been a central part of their defense. The push for resentencing gained traction in the courts, with the family's legal team working tirelessly to bring the case before a judge once again. But the road ahead would be anything but easy, and the Menendez brothers' fate rested in the hands of a district attorney who had once been open to reconsidering their sentence. Enter George Gaskin, the Los Angeles County District Attorney. When Gaskin took office, he seemed willing to entertain the idea of a resentencing hearing for Lyle and Eric. He acknowledged that new information, especially concerning the brothers' history of abuse, warranted a closer look at their case. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the Menendez brothers might finally receive the second chance they had been fighting for. However, as political dynamics shifted in the DA's office, so too did the stance on the Menendez case. Gaskin, who had initially shown a willingness to revisit the brothers' sentence, faced mounting pressure from various sides. When he was succeeded by Nathan Hochman, the mood in the DA's office took a sharp turn. Hochman, a new district attorney with a more conservative approach, opposed the idea of resentencing the Menendez brothers, citing the severity of their crime and the need for accountability. Hochman's position not only put an end to the brothers' hopes for a resentencing hearing but also reignited the fierce debate about their guilt and whether their past trauma could truly justify their actions. The shift in the DA's office sparked an outcry from those who had supported the Menendez brothers' cause. Public support, once again, became a driving force in the battle for their release. Several influential public figures, including talk show host Rosie O'Donnell, threw their weight behind the Menendez brothers, advocating for their release and a fair re-evaluation of their case. O'Donnell, who had long been vocal about issues of abuse and injustice, made her position clear: the brothers had suffered enough, and it was time for the legal system to acknowledge the full extent of their trauma. Rosie O'Donnell's vocal support of the Menendez brothers was not an isolated case. A growing number of celebrities, activists, and legal experts began to rally behind the brothers, calling for a reassessment of their case. The movement gained momentum, as more and more people questioned the fairness of the original trial and the way the justice system had handled the issue of abuse. The Menendez brothers' story, once a case of sensationalized media headlines and courtroom drama, had now transformed into a symbol of the flaws in the legal system and its failure to account for the complexities of familial trauma. But the Menendez brothers' case is far from over. As new legal developments unfold, their fight for justice continues to captivate the public. Will Lyle and Eric Menendez ever see the light of day again, or will they remain locked away in the shadows of a legal system that failed to see them as victims of their father's cruelty? With every new revelation, the questions surrounding their conviction grow louder, and the hope for justice burns brighter. The fight for justice for Lyle and Eric Menendez was never just about the brothers themselves. It was a fight for truth, for recognition, and for healing. But as the battle in the courtroom continued, a new and heartbreaking chapter unfolded. In the midst of the ongoing legal struggle, Terry Baralt, the aunt who had become a vocal and passionate advocate for her nephews, was found unresponsive in a Los Angeles hotel room, leaving the family and the public stunned. Terry, who had spent years fighting for the Menendez brothers, had been staying in the hotel while attending a meeting with her attorney and other supporters. The details of what transpired that day are still unclear, but what is known is this: when paramedics arrived at the scene, they found Terry in critical condition, unresponsive to any attempts at communication. The timing of this incident could not have been more devastating. At the height of the family's legal battle, as new evidence and legal motions were being filed, Terry's collapse added yet another layer of anguish. Those closest to her were left grappling with an unsettling mixture of emotions: fear for her health, concern for the future of the case, and frustration over the way the legal system seemed to be putting their family through yet another emotional toll. Terry Baralt had been battling colon cancer for years. Her health had been deteriorating for some time, but her commitment to the cause had never wavered. She had dedicated countless hours to speaking out on behalf of her nephews, even when the physical toll of her illness was apparent. She had become a symbol of strength for the Menendez family, her voice unwavering in the face of adversity, her presence a constant reminder of the fight for justice. Yet, despite her determination, Terry's body was giving way to the harsh reality of her condition. The news of her being found unresponsive in that hotel room sent shockwaves through the Menendez family and those who had followed the case for so long. Friends and family rushed to her side, hoping for a miracle, but the weight of her battle with cancer had taken its toll. In the days that followed, the family's attorney issued a statement, expressing deep concern for Terry's condition, and also addressing the growing frustration with the ongoing legal proceedings. The attorney didn't just speak of Terry's health, they spoke of the emotional toll the Menendez case had taken on the family. They took aim at the actions of the district attorney's office, who, in the middle of the hearing process, had shown graphic and disturbing images during trial proceedings, images that were not only unrelated to the case at hand, but also potentially re-traumatizing to those who had already suffered at the hands of the justice system. The attorney was clear in their words: it is unconscionable that the DA's office would allow such images to be shown in court, knowing the emotional damage it would cause to the victim's family. It is one thing to pursue justice, but another to disregard the emotional health and well-being of those still fighting for it. The implication was stark: the Menendez family, particularly Terry, had endured enough. Their continued involvement in the case, as painful as it was driven by the belief that justice had not been served. But now, they were being forced to relive traumatic moments they had hoped to leave behind in the courtroom, all in the name of a legal battle they had no control over. Terry's family was now faced with a painful dilemma. Not only were they watching a loved one fight for her life, but they were also watching the very legal system they had placed so much faith in begin to take its toll on their spirits. The public outrage was palpable. Supporters of the Menendez brothers, as well as advocates for families affected by trauma, spoke out, calling for greater sensitivity in the handling of such delicate matters. As news outlets reported on Terry's condition, it became clear that her fight was not just a personal one. She had become the face of the Menendez family's ongoing legal struggle, a symbol of endurance in the face of relentless pain. Yet, despite her personal battle, she remained steadfast in her support for her nephews, and her collapse in that hotel room only highlighted the toll that years of legal battles had taken on her. The emotional and physical exhaustion was evident, but so too was her unshakable commitment to seeing the truth come to light. As Terry was rushed to the hospital and her condition remained critical, the Menendez family was forced to confront a sobering reality. Would Terry survive to see the outcome of the case she had devoted so much of her life to? Would she be able to witness the final chapter of the Menendez brothers' legal saga, or would this painful moment mark the end of her journey with them? The Menendez brothers' case, now etched into the annals of criminal justice history, was never just about the murder of two parents. It was, and continues to be, about the deep, unhealed wounds that lay beneath the surface of an already fractured family. A family torn apart not just by loss, but by a cycle of trauma, silence, and a legal system that seemed indifferent to their suffering. For Terry Baralt, the emotional cost was personal. As Jose Menendez's sister, she was not just an advocate for her nephews, she was a woman who had watched her family crumble under the weight of its darkest secrets. The Menendez brothers' public trial, their subsequent conviction, and the ongoing battle for their resentencing all seemed to be a continuation of the deep emotional scars left by the abuse they suffered. But for Terry, it was more than just about her nephews, it was about family, history, and the undeniable pain that comes with witnessing the unraveling of everything she once knew. Terry's declining health, coupled with the emotional toll of this ongoing legal saga, was becoming too much to bear. Her fight against colon cancer had long been a private struggle, but it had now been overshadowed by the public and personal fight for her nephews. The battle for justice had turned into an endless cycle of stress and heartache, on a physical, emotional, and psychological level. The trauma was no longer just a haunting memory, it was a daily reality, compounded by her deteriorating condition. As the public eagerly followed the twists and turns of the case, the Menendez family remained trapped in a nightmare of unresolved pain. Behind closed doors, the emotional toll on the Menendez family was undeniable. Their story was no longer just one of a brutal double murder. It had become a reflection of the pervasive cycle of trauma that afflicts families caught in abusive dynamics, families that are left to carry the weight of their pasts long after the courtroom drama has ended. The Menendez brothers were not just convicted of murder, they were convicted of a story they could never fully escape, a narrative shaped by others, a narrative that many still refuse to understand. While Terry's health declined, the emotional impact on the Menendez brothers themselves remained a topic of heated debate. For many, the brothers were victims of an abusive upbringing, tragically scarred by a father who was cruel and manipulative, and a mother who, according to the brothers' claims, turned a blind eye to their suffering. But others remained skeptical, viewing their crime as cold-blooded and premeditated, arguing that they had taken the lives of their parents not out of desperation or fear, but out of greed and resentment. For Lyle and Eric, the emotional toll was also clear. Their conviction for the brutal murder of Jose and Kitty had cost them their freedom, their future, and their ability to truly process what they had endured as children. With each passing year, the emotional scars of their past continued to haunt them. Both brothers had been forced to confront a public narrative that painted them as heartless killers, despite the lingering questions about the abuse they had faced. But while the Menendez family battled the weight of their personal pain, the public's perception of their case was shifting. As the years passed, people began to look at the brothers' actions with a more nuanced understanding. The initial media frenzy had painted the brothers as spoiled, privileged criminals who had murdered their parents for financial gain. But as more information about their childhood abuse came to light, public opinion started to change. People were beginning to question whether the brothers had truly been given the opportunity for justice. Was the case just another example of how the legal system failed to adequately address abuse? Had the brothers' emotional trauma been fully considered during their trials? The public perception of familial abuse was beginning to shift, with many now recognizing the complex and devastating toll that long-term abuse could have on individuals. Yet, the role of the media in shaping the narrative could not be ignored. From the very beginning, the case was sensationalized. Headlines blared out the details of the murder in lurid terms, while television news stations broadcast images of the brothers looking cold and distant during the trial. The coverage was not just about facts, it was about shaping public opinion, about telling a story that sold newspapers and captured viewers' attention. Media outlets often focused on the most salacious details of the case, reducing the brothers' tragic upbringing to nothing more than a sensational spectacle. The details of their abuse, emotional, physical, and sexual, were often glossed over in favor of portraying the Menendez brothers as entitled youths who had killed for wealth and power. In doing so, the media created a distorted narrative, one that would shape the public's perception of the brothers for years to come. As the case became a cultural touchstone, debates over justice, abuse, and media manipulation raged on. Had the media played a role in ensuring the Menendez brothers' conviction, painting them as the villains of their own tragic story? Or had the brothers' own actions sealed their fate, regardless of the abuse they endured? For the Menendez family, the psychological and emotional impact was undeniable. The years of legal battles, the personal toll of their trauma, and the public scrutiny had left deep scars. As they continued to fight for the release of Lyle and Eric, they had to confront not just the emotional toll of the past, but the trauma of reliving their pain for the world to see. 35 years after Jose and Kitty Menendez were murdered in their Beverly Hills home, the case remains unfinished. Not because the verdict was unclear, or because the punishment wasn't delivered, but because the truth, the whole truth, may never have been fully heard. In 2023 and 2024, the case took a dramatic turn once again. A new wave of hearings, resentencing efforts, was launched, spearheaded by the Menendez family and their legal team. This wasn't just about getting a reduced sentence. It was about being heard. It was about the justice system finally acknowledging what they believe it ignored for far too long, decades of abuse, trauma, and a childhood marked by fear. The hearings were emotional, tense, and for some, unbearable. As Eric and Lyle Menendez appeared once more before a judge, their defense team presented new and disturbing evidence, letters written by Eric in the late 1980s, years before the crime, detailing the sexual abuse he claimed to have endured at the hands of his father, Jose Menendez. One letter in particular was chilling. In it, Eric wrote to his cousin about the torment he was living through. His words, filled with fear and desperation, were like a whisper from the past finally breaking through the silence. But it wasn't just the letter. The family's legal team pointed to new allegations from Roy Rossello, a former member of the boy band Menudo, who claimed that Jose Menendez sexually abused him as well during the 1980s. These accusations sent shockwaves through the courtroom and the public alike, seemingly reinforcing the brothers' long-standing claims of abuse. As the hearings progressed, more than 20 extended family members signed statements supporting the brothers' petition for resentencing. The message was unified and heartfelt: the justice system must re-examine the full picture. For them, this was no longer just about punishment, it was about healing, accountability, and truth. At the heart of the movement stood Terry Baralt. Despite her failing health, despite undergoing chemotherapy, despite being found unresponsive in a Los Angeles hotel room earlier that year, she remained the brothers' fiercest advocate. Her presence, or even her absence, was felt in every word spoken during those courtroom sessions. Her voice, immortalized in interviews and letters, cried out not only for her nephew's freedom, but for recognition of their suffering. This isn't about excusing a crime. This is about acknowledging what came before it. And what still haunts them to this day. But not everyone agreed. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, now under Nathan Hochman, adopted a very different stance than his predecessor. Where George Gaskin had signaled a willingness to re-examine the case with compassion and fresh eyes, Hochman made it clear, he would oppose any effort to reduce the Menendez brothers' sentences. His office argued that the abuse claims were legally irrelevant to the petition before the court, and emphasized that the original convictions were the result of due process. The courtroom became a battleground, not just for justice, but for how we as a society define justice. Graphic crime scene images were presented again, this time not to a jury but to grieving family members. The family's attorney would later accuse the DA's office of re-traumatizing those who had already endured so much. To them, it wasn't just about defending a conviction, it was about silencing a story they didn't want told. There's a way to pursue justice without cruelty. What was shown in that courtroom was unnecessary, and inhumane. Emotions ran high. Supporters of the brothers wept in court. Even Rosie O'Donnell, outspoken television personality and abuse survivor, took to social media to voice her support for Lyle and Eric. To her, this wasn't just about two men in prison, it was about the failure of a system to protect children, even long after the abuse ends. I know what it's like to be a child in pain. We don't always speak the truth when we're young. But it lives in our bodies. It lives in our decisions. And it can't be ignored forever. And so the Menendez case, once thought settled, reached a new, emotionally raw climax. The courtroom was no longer just a place of legal arguments, it became a theater of grief, accountability, and moral reckoning. As of today, the hearings continue. The outcome remains uncertain. But for those who have followed the Menendez case for decades, one thing is clear, this is no longer just the story of a crime. It's the story of survival. Of generational trauma. Of a family trying to be heard before time runs out. And as the brothers sit behind bars, and as supporters continue to rally, and as Terry Baralt lies in a hospital bed battling cancer, the fight for justice enters its final chapters. But how it ends, is still unwritten. The Menendez case is more than a headline. More than a courtroom drama. It's a lens, a window into trauma, power, silence, and the human cost of justice delayed, or denied. It's a story that continues to evolve, long after the verdict was read. A story shaped by time, by truth, and by people like Terry Baralt, who dared to speak when others would not. But now, we turn to you. Was justice served in the Menendez case? Or is there still a reckoning to be had? Did the system truly see these two brothers? Or did it turn away from the deeper pain behind their actions? We want to hear your voice. Your insight. Your truth. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Lyle and Eric Menendez deserve a second chance? Have your views on this case changed after hearing more of the full story? If this documentary moved you, if it opened your eyes to new truths or questions, please consider subscribing. Here, we uncover the stories behind the headlines, the forgotten details, the unheard voices, the quiet moments that often say the most. From historic court battles to breaking updates, this channel is where true crime meets deep, human storytelling. And don't go far, because in our next video, we dive into another chilling case that shook the nation, a tale of deception, obsession, and a terrifying thin line between reality and delusion. This has been the Menendez Brothers, Beyond the Crime, a story of pain, power, and the pursuit of justice. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay human.